Thanks for spending time.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And this is going to be fun. This is my 5th year, I think, at Montgomery Summit. So last year, I think I was here doing a live build, which for those who's ever done a live demo before,
That's very fraught, very brave.
It worked, and no one could tell me otherwise because so we're going to do a little something different as well here today that Matt and I will do, but it should be very informal, engaging. I might ask you questions to help participate, but let's.
So we'll do that. So we'll take some questions that throughout. So Gary, maybe just to start off, I want to start by framing the problem that we're solving here. And you had an early and pretty exceptional career in finance and trading platforms, commanding tens of thousands of people around the globe at a really young age, and that gave you a front row seat probably to some of the problems in enterprise tech. So as you look back on that, was there like a specific moment or realization you woke up or came home at night and just like were exhausted and said, I need to build Unqork?
Yeah, it's fascinating when you reach like your goal. Like I had a metric goal. The goal was be CIO of a Fortune 50 company. And I grew up in that. I started working in Smith Barney in '96, and I moved up to MD very young. And then I became a global CIO at another Fortune 50 company. And I thought I kind of hit that goal. I'm like, check, done. Corporate jet, this is exciting. We have 10,000 engineers and operations, 3,000 people in ops. And I was miserable, completely miserable. And what I realized was the thing I loved the best was tech. Tech's magical. Tech could do things nothing else could do. And what I realized very quick was 80% of the budget was just locked over here, which was about 1.6 billion in just keeping the lights on, everything that existed before I joined. And I couldn't touch it. And then the 300 or 400 million we were investing into discretionary spend and new things and exciting things, the second something went live, it was like a gut punch to see we just created more technical debt. We just created more issues. Like I just kept picturing the CIO coming after me, looking at my decisions and saying, what was I thinking? Like, what was this, and I was bringing in the latest in technology, bleeding edge at the time. And we were making Fortune and Forbes and all the news for doing it. And yet I was completely miserable. And it was this gut punch to say, every day I am in my job, I am making the company worse.
So you have this gut punch. You're in your job making the company worse, which it sounds like you had the fortitude to share and to take a leap and do something else. That was the driving force in creating Unqork. So based on what you saw, so what's the solution to the problem? What's the secret sauce?
And let me just, even before, just to frame the problem, because the past year with AI has been fascinating. So on one hand, I'm going to show you some things we're working on, which are, in my mind, breathtaking. Just to go back, when we created Unqork, we would sit with a customer and say, Matt, what do you want to build? What's your biggest problem today? And I remember sitting with the NYPD police commissioner going, what's your biggest problem? And she goes, build me an evidence collection system. I'm like, we're going to do it right now. And, hey, what's the weapon? It's a knife. What size is the knife? Is there blood on it? What type of blood? Was there cocaine or marijuana? What was the quality? And we're building this on the fly with her just giving us the requirements. And she stops and goes, if this works, I will kill you. And we're like, what do you mean? She goes, I've been waiting 2 years to see something come back. And nothing's come back. So the whole goal was we used to do a shock and awe with customers to show them what's possible to be built in speed and time and adjust. And AI has kind of blown that all up to a level which we've never thought was possible. Exciting. Now, with that said, AI is also exacerbating the problem that I left the corporate world for. So I'm kind of conflicted here. So I'm going to show you if this works. We're not doing a lot of slides, but I hate the iceberg analogy, but there's nothing else I could use. So sorry. I'm sure you've seen this a million times in your life. But the reality is, when you're a CIO and you're managing technology, when you're a CEO and managing a business, any size, the word TCO is something you understand, total cost of ownership. And when you think about total cost of ownership, there's the creation of the asset, and then there's the management of the asset, the lifetime. And I guarantee in every enterprise at every scale and every size, they're spending about 70% keeping those assets maintained. and about 30% in investing in new. And when you think about the investment, I'm gonna just throw it out. Packaged software never works. Like every company thinks they're special. Every company says, no, we're a little unique. So we have to customize that for our need. Whether that's an ERP solution or CRM solution, it's the same software. And so code is the exact opposite, is we're just gonna build it from scratch. And code, you'll see them throwing in here everything to do with AI-generated code. Copilot, every editor that assists in AI. The fact is, if you're writing code, you're creating technical debt faster. So stats are simple. There's 50 defects in production for every 1,000 lines of code you write. There's 1 cybersecurity in production for every 1,000 lines of code you write. That's waiting for a hacker to be found. So there's 600 new vulnerabilities created every week. You are not secure. Like, there is no way anyone is secure. The world is owned by the hackers. We're just kind of playing in their world. And the reality that I saw was that when you're coding the software or generating code, which is all AI is doing, is generating code, whether you're using a low-code tool, which is the worst of both, it kind of locks you in, sets you there, and says you're stuck forever, then all you're doing is creating this asset, which 70% of your costs are going to go to maintain.
And without jumping ahead, are you eliminating the bottom piece of the iceberg then? Or how should we think about what you're doing in this really powerful diagram?
So if you actually now look inside the iceberg, what you're going to see is this. You're going to see when you level up one level more, there's code that runs in a runtime. Runtimes run in operating systems. Most likely could be a container, operating system, hosting, database, network. You could just go down the stack. The stack hasn't changed in 20 years. So what we basically had to do was eliminate not just the code completely from the world, but the entire stack beneath it. So we had to eliminate runtimes. Why is that? Because just think about a runtime is humans invent languages to speak to machines. Machines don't understand it. Humans invent runtimes to understand it. You will pick any JVM, which is a Java virtual machine. I bet there's 5,000 vulnerabilities in that runtime today. That is not secure.
Wow.
That runtime is, even if the code is perfect, the code was written by AI, it's beautiful. The reality is that's the picture you're running to. You're just running there faster. So the world we basically had to do, and I'm just gonna jump quickly, what I saw very quickly was the more apps I owned, the more my cost went up. There was no scale. It's kind of like, if anyone remembers the data center days and data rooms days, you'd walk into a data center and see servers racked. Like, the world of software is basically like every single server is a different brand CPU, different computer, different stack.
The answer is to always add more.
Exactly, add more, and there was no scale. So like the numbers, it's $2.5 trillion to fix the technical debt we have today in the US.
Wow.
It's 9 trillion global. That's the numbers. This is the data you're seeing. And so when you look at what we're basically doing is we came up with a concept which was unique. And I will tell you that there's a principle behind it, which is pure. And specifically what it meant was, how do you eliminate code is you can't give a backdoor to ever generate code or create code. That's it. It's very simple. So pick a SaaS solution you like. CRM, ITSM, ERP, doesn't matter what it is. Every SaaS solution started off with, we're going to do this well. And we're then going to open it up for you to code the rest. That's the backdoor. And so they get 70% there. There's technologies out there that say, we proudly get you 70% there, 30% more you're going to code. So the reality is what you basically are doing is you're generating technical debt because what you can't do if I let you write code is upgrade you. So anyone ever try to upgrade any software and it did not go smoothly? Like move to the next version of Lightning or Salesforce, or it's complete migration projects. And it's great for the SIs, horrible for the users, the customers. But the reality is what we wanted to do was to say, what if you describe software using data? So specifically, pixel perfect presentation down to the file storage of a file, to database, to schemas, to store procedures, to rules, to workflows, to integrations, to every core system you could imagine in the world. We basically stepped back and DNA sequenced that into data. And once you have it in data, you could you, me, everyone in the room could actually read software. You no longer need a degree in computer science. You don't need to understand anything about a hosting environment, about DevOps and CI/CD and rollbacks and deployments. Your business logic is described in data. And then what we basically did was we then created an engine that takes that data back into the experience for the customer.
So it seems like everyone can code, and I saw this powerfully. If you haven't had this demo, it is amazing and worked. It's pretty amazing to do it live streaming last year. That's very courageous with this. What training do I need, or do one of our enterprise customers need, if any, to be able to effectively use your product?
So it's interesting. So when we started off, we built a drag and drop tool, which was horrible for the business and horrible for engineers. Right? It was like the worst of both so we were kind of in this middle bucket where it took a very special skill to learn in about 3 weeks how to build software. And we had about 20,000 engineers trained to build it, many of them business. What we've done recently was we rebuilt the entire developer tool using Unqork itself. So we ate our own dog food. We rewrote Unqork using Unqork. So literally the drag and drop IDE tool that you would use to build the software, it's nothing but a data file behind the scenes, and it's rendered using our engine. Once we did that, we're now able to make that so user-friendly that anyone could build software. So we have, and it's interesting, we have one of the top banks in the world in their asset and wealth group. The business has built 65 production apps. They're coming on stage at our event to talk about it. In the same bank, the security services CEO is coming on stage to talk about how they're using Unqork for all of the investor portals. And engineering on one side building it, business on the other, same company. So to us, it's actually democratized where anyone should be able to build it.
And when you're democratizing what anyone's able to build, like what size of customers and industries do you work with?
So we have startups using Unqork. We actually have, there are 3 production startups where there's only a CEO and no one else in the company. Just, I want you to think about that. There's no engineer, no CTO, no co-founder. There's a founder CEO who has a revenue-generating startup that's already profitable. One in HR, one in healthcare, one in real estate. And there's no one else there but a CEO, because you just need to focus on the business. You don't need to think about everything else around it. So that's an example. That's a small customer. And what we have is as large customers as like a Marsh McLennan, where we're the placement system through Department of Homeland Security, State Department. We hope to be doing your passports and visas next year. And even HHS in the government. We have, CVS Aetna as claims, and we're prior auths there.
And you've been able to get, I've worked at the Pentagon. It was joking on an earlier panel. We have like 2 speeds, the Bin Laden operation and then like everything else. When you add Windows 95 to the Pentagon like 2 years ago, have you been able to get traction in these very slow-moving federal bureaucracies?
We have. It's not easy, by the way. So I was telling Matt earlier, I said, we could reduce 50% of the cost in the government tomorrow. We can move every single mainframe, every Java app, every third-party app to Unqork like that.
Has Doge been in touch with you?
We are reaching out. I'm in DC a lot these days, but just to be clear, I could take a Java application, paste it into a window in Unqork, and it becomes a data file, which we now run as an application, and you shut down the Java. We do the same for COBOL. We do the same for every language. CRMs, ITSMs, we could move those over with a click of a button and then shut down those licenses. We had one CIO, very large, old workflow tool. He was like, I've got 6 months to renew. He gave his team 6 months to come to our platform, and we did it. And we shut down the license. So that's kind of where we are. And just to where we're going. So to be clear, 8 years we've been building enterprise software with a single code library with 6,000 apps running on that same library across every industry. And we had about 6 million named users come in last month, about 1 billion API calls last month.
Wow.
So the scale that we're running, and just to give you the story, I've got 30 support people in the company supporting 6,000 apps. So just think about that's the same number of apps as some banks have, spending 15 billion a year. So we're about 1% of the cost once you move to our platform versus what it was before.
So that's a pretty powerful cost reduction. And I know I want to leave time for questions in the audience. So if you have something, think about it, raise your hand, we'll go around. But as you talk about these cost reductions, before we end the conversation, I want to make sure to spend time on your AI strategy.
So to us, like, AI is not new. I built my first neural net in '93. I tried to predict off-track bet racing. I failed. I went to work at Wall Street. That's the story. Like, nothing new there. You know, we've always used machine learning to help us predict the next best action. There's no question. So to us, we've been doing that in Unqork. IDP has been in Unqork. We orchestrate all the engines and models. What we're seeing the opportunity to do very unique, though, is in an agentic world, I'll use the word, it's all over. In an agentic world, it just means that the AI is going to be able to take an action. That's it. We're trusting it to make a decision, take an action. That's great. In an Unqork agentic world, we're actually able to drag the agent into a swim lane and assign it permissions, roles, and restrictions as to what it can and can't do without one line of code. And what we do really well is we do the most boring infrastructure things in the world. Role-based access control to data down to the field level. Who could see what? Is it obfuscated? It's restricted. Imagine the AI model can't see gender and race and ethnicity and age. Now you could use it for underwriting an insurance policy. Like that, and you can guarantee that. So the other thing we do really well is we are able to store the transaction in a time machine and guarantee to the regulator what it did and show it as it existed at a moment in time and replay it. Just to think about that, that's why the banks use us for onboarding, is we're able to basically pick up an onboarding app and say, hey, that Russian oligarch before the Ukraine war, let me show you the application as it existed then. Let me show you every service call from the OFAC Treasury terrorist database, sanctions, and let me actually replay it for you. No software could do that because you have to eliminate code and runtime to do that. Guarantee it. And the last thing is, we're able to then have the AI return back to us the answer with the explanation. And if you could store in a time machine, hey, we were underwriting this, we actually got back the answer is approved, and here's what the AI did to find it, you've now surpassed human capability.
No, it's pretty powerful to do that. And any other do folks in the audience have questions? I have about 3 pages more, but want to make sure to let folks. So I will take that as a.
And I'm ready to do maybe something interactive.
Let's do it.
I'm older, so I used to play Mad Libs for fun.
Love it.
Right?
Let's go interactive.
So, okay, anyone throw out any company, actually throw out a website or company that you think has the best brand online, just out of curiosity, the best experience. Anyone? Amazon. Okay, so I'm gonna just run, I know you can't see what I'm doing. I'm basically just using my app and saying, hey, Unqork, go to Amazon, download their entire design system and convert it to Unqork's design system. That's done. So imagine being able to actually demo to a customer in their experience within 2 seconds what it looks like for them. You're meeting Citigroup, you're meeting JP Morgan, and this is their designs. So we abstracted away designs into its own design system separate from business logic. So you could change designs on the fly. So the next thing will be a little bit more fun. So let's do this. So I'm gonna actually, okay, favorite dessert. What type of dessert? Anyone? Ice cream? Favorite sport? What is it? Hockey. Okay, and anyone apply for anything recently in the city? Any permits, forms? We heard Mike applied for a building permit. Anything recently? No. Okay, so
For our laundry room renovation.
Renovation, home renovation. Okay, so if it works, again, I'm just gonna text Unqork from my phone. Nothing else, no app. Just gonna text it. And so text Unqork agent, build me an application with a drop down of favorite ice cream flavors. And let's just keep going. Wait. and include favorite sorry, that's me typing. And include favorite hockey team, both as drop-downs. And combine that with a form for home renovations in Los Angeles County. So if I send that, let's see if it works. I'm gonna jump through here. You should be able to access that now, and it should look like Amazon. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna actually give it a shot. Okay, I'm gonna tell it to pick the top 10 teams. Let's just change it a little bit. So if you go to it right now, try it. Don't wait. List top 10 hockey teams. If you select vanilla, ice cream, ask if you want fudge. And that should be, if you just click refresh in a second. So imagine an application being disposable. So that app that you're interfacing with, it's now done. You could try it. So that Amazon app, it doesn't exist. It's created and instantiated in our regenerative engine at the moment you request it. There's nothing a hacker could break into. There's nothing available. The moment it was instantiated, the engine instantiated is the most secure, powerful engine in the world because there's 6,000 other apps using the same code base. They're all benefiting. When Goldman runs a pen test on Unqork, they're pen testing the app you just used. So I would store my driver's license in here, my social, my date of birth, because I would trust it. Most importantly, every transaction you store in this, I could repeat. Pull it out of a time capsule, see what you did moment by moment, even though it doesn't exist. So did it work, by the way? I'm curious to see if you select vanilla, does it ask you if you like? Just gonna try it myself. Yeah, it actually did Boston Bruins, and you've got vanilla, and if you select vanilla, the business rule kicks in. Did it work for everyone? Yeah. Okay, cool. 8 seconds left. We got that demo done. Any last minute?
So look, I think we could go on for much, much more. I think that's a pretty great high note to end on. Maybe I'll just ask one final piece. 3 to 5 years from now, we're standing back on this stage. Where has Cork gone and what will have happened?
So to me, all I keep dreaming about is the connection of public and private into one space. So picture, I need a dog license. I text, I need a dog license. I'm adopting a dog. Unqork's merging all that data into one application and we'll pre-fill it from the Unqork data I've already stored from other applications. I walk into a hospital, I need a visit, here's all my medical history stored in Unqork. I basically I'm applying for a new bank account, it's all pre-filled. And I think the experience could be as simple as there's no more apps. I think it could be as simple as, hey, I need something, give it to me, and there's your form. I don't think it's a chat experience. I think a chat experience becomes very cumbersome once you start to use it. I do think it's a dialogue to get to the right intelligent form that's pre-filled for you.
Excellent. Well, with that, please join me in thanking Gary for a fascinating conversation. This is really terrific.